Okay, so we need to move on here. It's y that should equal negative 1.8. And of course there's a problem with that, as we're going to find out. Okay? So here is where y equals negative 1.8. And it's all along this line, right?
Yeah.
Well, there's no point on the graph where y equals negative 1.8, is there?
Correct.
Because the graph is up here and y equals 1.8 is down here, right?
Yeah. So you gotta go to...
There's no intersection.
Absolutely.
So, to emphasize a little important terminology,
Me too.
Hot and rain.
it's important to understand this tells you that negative 1.8 is not in the range of this function. There's stuff about domain and range interspersed in these problems. I'm using that language because, you know, when y'all were used to doing domains and ranges, you were doing pretty well with it, okay? It's been a while. I want to review and reinforce that idea so we have it available to us, because it's going to be important. Okay. Now, what about y equals, I tell you, okay, if negative 1.8 isn't in the range, go ahead and use the absolute value, which many of you did, okay? So,
I figured. Use the absolute value. Since negative 1.8
so we use the absolute value of negative 1.8, which is 1.8. And many of you did this. Well, here's one. Cut 4 in half, here's 2, here's 3. Okay, so 1.8 is here.
So it's two values.
And on this horizontal line, y equals 1.8. The points on the graph where y equals 1.8 are this one and this one, and we can estimate the x values, right? So an honest estimate, this looks like 0.7, 0.6 or 0.7, right? This is probably 0.6 or 0.7. So I'm going to guess negative 0.7 and x equals 0.7. Now we're asked to find the value of y, of x, that makes y equal to 1.7, right? How do we do that? I think I might have said 1.7. It's 1.8, right? Well, y equals f of x. F of x is 1 over x squared. That should equal 1.8, right?
Yeah.
So we solve. Solve for x. Okay? Now I don't have room right here and I don't want to reach up that high. So I'll just put a little arrow down here. So we have 1 over x squared equals 1.8. What's the first thing we do?
Multiply 1 to both sides.
Do what now?
Multiply 1.
If we multiply 1 by both sides, we don't change anything.
No.
1 times 1 over x squared is still 1 over x squared, and 1 times 1.8 is still 1.8, right? First thing you do when you have an equation that has denominators is what?
Multiply by the
Multiply by the common denominator. What's the common denominator?
X.
1. X squared.
1's not a denominator, it's a numerator.
No, but there's a 1 in front of the x. 1x squared.
It's not 1x squared, it's 1 divided by x squared. You have a numerator and a denominator. Numerator is above the little line, denominator is below, and of course you know that, but you know, we want to focus on it.
1 over 1x squared is what I'm saying.
No, the denominator is x squared. We multiply by the denominator. Okay? Yeah, we're all kind of chuckling because we're all in the same boat here. So, no need to be embarrassed, but and of course we're reinforcing an important principle of solving equations that we're going to need with rational functions. We're going to need it bad. Okay, so we really have to understand it. So, you know, we're reinforcing a lot of stuff here. Okay, so we have x squared times 1 over x squared equals x squared times 1.8. Well, x squared times 1 over x squared is 1. So we have 1.8x squared from this side is equal to 1. Now, of course, we have 1 equals 1.8 times x squared, but we reverse the sides, and I hope we can do that comfortably. Okay? Make sense?
Yeah.
So how do we solve that? Well,
Divide by 1.8.
I won't write out every step because we do have limited time and there's something else we need to do, but we get x squared is 1 over 1.8, right?
Square root of 1 over 1.8.
So x is plus or minus the square root of 1 over 1.8. Remember, the solution to x squared equals aardvark is x equals plus or minus the square root of an aardvark. Try to draw that. Okay? No, don't. I don't want to say. No, I'd love to see it. But don't feel any pressure. Okay. Right?
Just
Is it
put
good?
that picture in the square.
Okay, well, you can plug that into your calculator, right? Well, it's 1 over 1.8 is a little more than 1/2. Okay? Not that much more than 1/2. I think I'm guessing it comes out. My guess is 0.74, but you can calculate it. Okay?
That's
I think I'm within 100th, but
Yeah, 0.74. That was wrong.
okay. So we understand what to do with the first two problems, right? Now, what do we do with the third? Read the third problem.
construct the drag.
So you're going to look for y. X squared.
So we write the equation.
Okay.
Write the equation as x squared.
Okay? Okay, now, here's how we can approach, whoops.